Now, some minority MPs are demanding a reversal of government's move to acquire AirtelTigo, insisting the decision is not in the interest of Ghana. Kumbungu MP Ras Mubarak, who serves on the Communications Committee of Parliament, says government has no business acquiring a company that is making losses and has liabilities of almost 1 billion Ghana cedis. He says there are better alternatives to protect jobs rather than government taking over the company, adding that government should not be taking such a major decision only a few days to the next elections.
Government has showed gross disrespect to the Ghanaian public. I am disappointed that Ghanaians had to hear this first from India by virtue of the fact that Airtel is listed on the Indian Stock Exchange, and by Indian law they are enjoined, they are required to make such things public. So the news broke out in India and it filtered through into Ghana. A couple of days after news broke out, government has still not, respected Ghanaians enough to tell us what it wants to do on behalf of the Ghanaian public. And I think that is completely unacceptable. And I think that we should demand nothing short of a full disclosure on details of the deal. Because you are acquiring a company that is not doing well, a company that is on its knees on behalf of the people. And in doing so, the people have a right. And you as government have a duty to let the people know what the details are. But let's get into some very specific issues. We all know that the marriage between Airtel and Tigo wasn't really going well, for which reason both parties, Airtel was very unhappy, Tigo was very, very unhappy. Now government going in to acquire 100% shares means that government becomes a referee through the National Communications Authority and a player, and that brings about unfairness in the field because there are other private sector organizations who are doing business. If government is to be the referee at the same time the player, they may end up nudging other companies out of business, and that could result in job losses, that could result in collapse of businesses. Now you also have,
that's exactly why they say they are
I'll get to that. You also have a situation where government at the time they sold of Ghana Telecom indicated to the good people of Ghana that government had no business being in the telecoms industry. If government has money to buy the liabilities, to buy Airtel and also to take care of the liabilities of AirtelTigo, one would expect that they would first deal with the situation at hand, which is to fulfill its contractual obligations with Vodafone, inject some capital so that Vodafone can expand and grow, and by expanding and growing they can employ more Ghanaians. They haven't been able to do that.
Well, so government earlier this week confirmed reports that it is at an advanced stage in discussions with Bharti Airtel and Tigo for the transfer of AirtelTigo shares to government along with all customers' assets and agreed liabilities. Now, this is after the Indian-owned company announced its exit earlier in the week. So what does this mean for the telecom space? Joining me to discuss is Ghana Director of CAS International, Apiakusi Adumako. It's great to have you this afternoon. So Bharti Airtel says its exit is to take care of key markets in Africa, but we're also getting a sense that they were struggling a bit here in Ghana. What do you think was not working right for them?
Very much. I think the main problem with AirtelTigo has been the fact that when the two firms merged, there wasn't enough liquidity to be able to invest in the market to expand their share of the market. And this sector is very, very competitive in the sense that if you don't have resources to invest and others are investing, that firm that's investing is able to get all the shares of the market. And that has been their problem right from day one.
Okay, and so now government has confirmed that it is taking over the shares. There are indications this is a temporary move, but is it an option government should be taking to make this permanent? Should they consider that?
I think government has become the last resort for this particular disaster in the market because no business or any firm would want to come and rescue a firm with huge liabilities on its book. And of course, that's thought to the government. And government also has a public policy rationale for coming in to save the company, to acquire the company. One, already we know that the telecom market is gradually tipping to the side of MTN. And should we allow AirtelTigo to go down the drain, what it means is that most subscribers will go to will flip to Vodafone and AirtelTigo. And currently, their network will not be able to take the load of the new subscribers that will move from AirtelTigo to Vodafone or MTN. So the best thing that government needs to do is to ensure that we don't run the risk of having a network overload in the short term. And number two, government also has a national security, and sometimes government has to put public policy rationale beyond business decisions. And I think public policy rationale might probably inform government decision in acquiring the company than business decisions.
So the minority in parliament seems to think government has no business taking over the shares of Bharti Airtel. You had the minority MP there, Ras Mubarak, speak to that. Do you think he has a case?
Yes, I mean, the fundamental issue from economics is that government has no business in doing business. However, we also know that whenever there's a market failure, government has to step in. I mean, the US, for example, in 2008, when the financial crisis came, the federal government bailed out the businesses. And these businesses were wholly owned by the private sector. And if government had withdrawn their support, most of these companies would have collapsed, and its effect on the economy would have been very, very catastrophic. So government, you do the cost-benefit analysis and weigh which decision is the best. Of course, they allow Fannie Mae to collapse, but then for AIG, Bank of America, and General Motors, the federal government bailed those companies. And I think the call by the minority, I think, is not the best. We should allow government to government to drop in with the parachute to save the company, and then after some time and government has invested in, and then there is enough enterprise value for the company, then government can decide to exit the company and float the shares on the Ghana Stock Exchange.
Okay, I guess, one of the concerns is got to do with mismanagement, as we have seen in the past when government has had to take over something of the sort. So I guess that is the issue that the minority wants to raise there. But let's move away from that and talk about how that changes the dynamics in the telecom space now that Bharti Airtel is exiting, government is taking over the shares. What do you think is going to be the future of the telecoms market here in Ghana?
Currently, the telecom market has been bedeviled with challenges. We've had Casapreco leaving the market. We've had Glo also facing some challenges. And Vodafone is not also making profits since 2009 when they entered the market. And AirtelTigo too is also not making profit. The only profit-making firm is MTN. And that tells you that there is something fundamentally wrong with our telecom market that we need to resolve it. High cost operation has been the main challenges facing these companies. Until we are willing to confront it, I think that the telecom market will tip to one firm, and that firm will be a monopoly. And we all know that whenever there's a monopoly in the market, consumers don't get the best out of it. So I think government needs to do a full landscape study of the telecom market, and then once the report comes, the government will be able to address the issues that emanate from the study.
My final question would be what you think would be the game changer going forward. After government has taken over the shares, what should be the way forward in determining the future of AirtelTigo?
I think once government takes over the shares of the company, government needs to, of course, government is not taking the shares, government is also taking its liabilities. After you've taken the liabilities and you've taken over, you need to invest to bring the company to a level that can be able to compete with the other parties, other players in the market. And once you get to that level, then people will see that, well, the company has moved from negative to positive. And then that will also drive even foreign investors to come and even acquire part of the share. I think that should be the government interest, because government should not run this thing as a normal state-owned enterprise, because this telecom market is very dynamic, and if you don't have a foresight in it, you crash yourself out like it has happened with, other two players that I mentioned, Kasapa and then Globe.
All right. Apia Kusi Adumako, always a pleasure to speak to you on the marketplace. Thanks very much. That was Country Director of CAS International sharing some perspective on Bharti Airtel's exit and the fact that government is taking over the shares of that company in AirtelTigo.